The BTS solo promotions, favoritism or proper strategy. This is a perfect video for me to watch since I am a new ARMY and I've listened to all the solo songs. I've reacted to all their solo songs. I quite enjoyed each of the singles that all of them had their own taste. And when people have a criticism of BTS, especially people who don't know BTS, K-pop in general, they have the stereotypical view. They think, well, they're robots created by the industry to write the lyrics they need to write in order to get some views and recognition. They don't make their own beats. They don't make their own personalities. They have an image that they should uphold to that is told by the companies they serve, right? That's a stereotypical view. But what this showed me with their individual solo songs, each of them had their own views. Each of them even had their own promotional strategies. Each of them had their own taste, styles, suited for the personality of the artist, of the boys. Hobby, it was different. V, RM, Jungkook, Jimin, Jin, all of them had different songs. It was suited, tailored towards their personality and what their end goal is as an artist. And I love that. Doesn't that speak completely against the stereotypical view of the, all the K-pop artists, BTS artists, the boys, they're robots created by the industry. They are told by the company how they should behave. Again, all the armies, we know that's a complete lie. From the outside, people view it that way. So this is the perfect video for me to watch from the Bora City magazine.
Now that all of the BTS members have debuted as solo artists, let's analyze why their projects are also different. It's not only about the different genres and sounds, it's also about the differences in the style of promotions, target audiences, and results. Because this is the reality. A BTS member had a global tour, but another member had one concert at a festival. Another member only had one small venue concert, and another member didn't have any concerts.
Yeah, this is... Again, Jimin, RM, Hobby, Jungkook, they all had their own visions for their albums, and they did it the way they wanted to do, which is so cool. They were able to do that. They have that much freedom as an artist, and it speaks completely against the stereotypical view of people have of Korean artists, K-pop artists. But BTS transcends above K-pop in general. Right? And all the boys, they are international stars. They're not in the bubble of K-pop. BTS it's its own genre now, and I completely understand that. People in the beginning, when I started listening to Jungkook 8 months ago, in the comments, everybody told me that BTS is not K-pop. I didn't understand that. Now I completely understand, especially after their solo promotions, how each boys had their own visions and they were able to do it the way they wanted to do.
A BTS member had 3 physical albums, but another member only had 2. Another member only had 1. Another member only had 1 CD with no photo cards, stickers, and other things the other albums got. But another member didn't get a physical album that charts could count when he first debuted. A BTS member had promotions in the US, the UK, and South Korea, but another member only promoted in the US and Korea. Another member promoted in Korea and Japan, and another member barely did any promotions. A BTS member debuted a #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, and his song was the #1 song worldwide for weeks on a row. But another member only debuted a #1 on the Hot 100. Another member almost entered the top 50, but another only entered the top 100. When you phrase things like this, conflict awaits. Fans complain about unequal support by the label, unequal support by fans, and of course, unequal results. But I think these comparisons are unfair and at this point, malicious. Because if you really think about the intention of each project, you can see the different visions the BTS members had for their solo music careers. If you really want to measure promotion efforts and success, let's talk about how each promotion schedule helped gain the attention of their specific target audiences.
That's what she said about vision for the specific solo artist as their career. That's the end goal. Why is everybody only seeing the outcome, the end result, as a win in Billboard, as in views? It's not that. It's not all the members wanted that. They had their own vision and they wanted to perform it the way they wanted. They wanted to promote it the way they wanted to. I'm pretty sure if all of them wanted to get into Billboard and Hot 100, they would have done it. They would have created that type of music in order to hit that genre, in order to hit that specific criteria. But no, they wanted to create a music they wanted to create. They wanted to promote their music, their solo albums. They wanted the way they wanted to promote it.
Also realize
And reach
that
the specific
some
audience they
promotions
want
are
to
actually counterproductive for some members but beneficial for others. You may think I'm crazy, but sometimes a #1 on the US can hurt an album's chances to be consumed by certain audiences. Of course, other times it can help the project, but it all comes down to the artist's vision and target audience. So I'll try to explain why I don't think any BTS member, song, or album has been sabotaged by Big Hit, HYBE, ARMY, and much less BTS. After analyzing every single piece of promotion, I actually think that every promotion decision has been smart and effective. The member who started the BTS solo era was J-Hope. Like the other members part of the rap line, J-Hope released his first solo project as a mixtape. This is not his official solo debut. Hope World and the other solo mixtapes did not have official promotions, but they were shared on social media by Big Hit. These type of projects were side projects shared for ARMYs as a gift or as extra free music. This is important to highlight so we can understand why some BTS members do certain promotions and not others. Confused ARMYs and J-Hope solo stands can say that J-Hope's Jack in the Box debut album was sabotaged by Big Hit and HYBE because it was released with no physical versions and no performances in Western TV shows or K-pop shows. These three things are expected in a regular BTS promotion schedule, but this is J-Hope's solo career. So look at what he did do and conclude what new audience he wanted to attract. For what I can see,
Why are all the fans blaming the company? I think Hobby and all the boys had full control, and they did it the way they wanted to do. If Hobby didn't want to do it a certain way, it was his own choice.
J-Hope wants his debut album Jack in the Box to be a long-lasting record listened to not only by ARMYs but also by global fans of hip-hop. People who are actually interested in hip-hop as a genre.
J-Hope. He got ambitions to go worldwide.
And J-Hope is not necessarily going to attract this specific audience by performing on K-pop TV shows or American TV shows like Jimmy Fallon and Good Morning America, watched by an older American demographic. Actually, if he did, he will probably lose the specific audience he's trying to attract.
It makes so much sense that he collaborated with J. Cole. If Hobby's goal in the end is to attract hip-hop fans in general internationally, the way he did it, collaborating with J. Cole, releasing those type of songs, it makes sense. Hobby's end goal was to become a global hip-hop artist and attract new hip-hop fans that didn't know Hobby before.
Can see, he is not interested in the general public listening to the Billboard Hot 100 songs. He prefers promoting to an audience interested in hip-hop no matter the language. This is a tricky audience to target, but I think every decision he made was perfect. To start, J-Hope was the first and only BTS member to launch his album with a listening party. If you pay attention to the artists he invited, you can see that these are mostly indie hip-hop artists. Most of them are not mainstream,
I didn't
but they
know
are
there was a
respected
listening
in the
party.
South Korean hip-hop and alternative music scenes. This listening party sets the tone for the rest of his solo promotions. J-Hope's debut solo performance was as a headliner in Lollapalooza 2022 in Chicago. His concert had an audience of over 100,000 people, including ARMYs, the general public,
this
and of course,
concert
curious hip-hop
had so
fans.
much energy.
This strategy was extremely successful because after the event, there were a lot of hip-hop fans listening to the music of a BTS member for the first time, whether in person or online. This event also gave J-Hope the opportunity to meet and then record a song with the artist who inspired his name, J. Cole.
After I saw Lollapalooza, I saw J-Hope in a different light. It was still in the beginning of my journey finding out who the members were, their personalities. And if I see Run BTS episodes, the early episodes, Hobby's personality is really this bubbly personality, and it is him. He is the charger in the group. He's the middle person in the group who brings energy and happiness and smile and laughter to the boys and everybody around him. But when I saw Lollapalooza, I saw a different side of Hobby, which was quite inspiring, and it was aggressive, and he looked like a hip-hop artist. And the hip-hop artists have a different view than what Hobby portrays when he's with the boys, but he stands out. Hobby's real personality can be this really bubbly and happy person, but on stage he can be this extremely aggressive, a hip-hop artist, like hypey. And I saw him in a different light when I saw Lollapalooza.
Collaboration and his concert at Lollapalooza gave him an attractive image to this specific audience, the type of audience who prefers simple individual or one-on-one conversations with no audience and a minimalistic or improvised backstage set. These are the only type of interviews he did, and it was intentional, in my opinion.
Even when he's doing the promotions, the intentional promotions to be known as a hip-hop artist, I can see it in the change of styles and clothing. I think when he's with the boys, there has to be a certain image and clothes they have to wear to be just as to be in that group, to be appear together, to wear the same kind of clothes. It's not always like that, but especially when they're doing interviews, you can see they're wearing suits or something similar, especially in the earlier days. But in these interviews, I can see him definitely wearing, more hip hop clothes.
The only exception was his interview at the Seasons, but this is also very strategic because this is not a K-pop show watched by K-pop fans. Unlike K-pop shows, the Seasons has long interviews with no rehearsed answers by idols doing aegyo and an ending fairy and performing a choreography with playback. For this same reason, the interviewees, the performances, and the audience watching the show are different. Thanks to this, J-Hope has the freedom to do a more personal performance he wouldn't be able to do on a K-pop TV show. The last thing to note about J-Hope's solo debut is the pace of promotions. He didn't do every interview and performance the first 2 weeks of the album release. This could...
Wow, MV behind the scenes, 2 teasers, the listening party was there. There was one interview. IU interview was there. Then Lollapalooza interview, collaboration. I haven't listened to. There's an award show. Wow, you're also performing on New York. The documentary, which I still haven't seen, really interested in. Interview for the documentary, probably. 2 interviews. MV, yeah, for hoping with the J. Cole collaboration. Oh, Suchwita interview. And then the album release.
Billboard and Korean charts positions in risk, but that's okay because that was not his goal. He actually performed in Lollapalooza 2 weeks after his album release, and he continued with promotions with months in between each promo. Almost 5 months after the release of the album, he performed at Mama, which let him do a unique stage with no choreography. Then, 6 months after his debut, J-Hope performs at Times Square New Year's Eve. 7 months after his debut, he releases and promotes his J-Hope in the Box documentary on Disney Plus and has an interview on a popular YouTube channel. 9 months after the release of his album, he performs and has an interview on the Seasons. As you can see, the promotions are focusing on longevity more than on day one success, so J-Hope's records reflect that. Here comes the biggest complaint. When J-Hope released Jack in the Box, the physical album did not come with a physical CD. They came with most small things you would get in a regular BTS physical album and a QR code to listen to the songs on the Weverse Albums app. This code replaced the CD, and for that, it did not count on Western charts like Billboard. Since this was the first time BTS did this and the Weverse Albums app is a new app by Hype, people accused Hype of affecting J-Hope's debut numbers, of purposefully sabotaging him just to promote their streaming app. But again, look at J-Hope's overall promotions. Every interview or performance was far apart. This doesn't mean that the promotions are bad. Actually, these type of promotions are very common with Western artists because they are less exhausting for both the artist and the audience, and it can improve longevity. It's true that he released his debut album almost exclusively on digital platforms, but 6 months later, he released a well-produced vinyl record, and now, more than a year after the debut week, he released physical albums that count toward the Billboard charts. These are the type of promotions you have when you want your album to be discovered and remembered by fans time and time again over the years, not just the first 2 weeks. This helps with longevity and helps his desired audience, hip-hop listeners, have multiple chances of discovering his music. The unique performances and simple interviews that will be discovered will not disappoint this audience because these are the type of performances and interviews they already enjoy. So the results successfully match the promotions. Next, we have Jin's solo debut single, The Astronaut. which he released as a See You Later song before going to the military. The biggest complaint I've seen about Jin's debut is from solo stans saying that this is not a proper debut because most members had album debuts, but Jin only had a single. The assumption is not that Jin decided to release a single, but that HYBE and even BTS are at fault because Jin said that he wanted to go to the military earlier during the summer, right after the end of the Proof promotions in June. Therefore, according to some people, Jin was forced by the other BTS members and their label to wait until October for their unexpected Busan concert. So he had no choice other than to go to the military on the winter and quickly release The Astronaut after being busy with everything. This gave him only days to promote his song, so there were no interviews in America and no music shows in Korea. He only performed as a guest artist in Coldplay's concert in Argentina. However, you don't need to be a genius to realize that The Astronaut was not made for the general public's consumption. Like Jin said multiple times, he wanted to make one song for armies before going to the military. He talked to Chris Martin from Coldplay about the kind of message he wanted to transmit, and Chris Martin...
Wow. See, Jin's goal here was to just make a music as a message to the army, and before he goes to the military, it's almost it's suiting. Yeah, so his goal wasn't like a solo debut. It wasn't nothing like that. It was purely of the intention of making that music for the army before he goes to the military. Nah.
Specifically for Jin. This was not meant to be an official debut with a non-army audience in mind. This doesn't mean that it was an abandoned project. The Astronaut is Jin's official debut single and had as a guest artist in Coldplay's concert in Argentina. However, you don't need to be a genius to realize that The Astronaut was not made for the general public's consumption. Like Jin said multiple times, he wanted to make one song for armies before going to the military.
That was Jin's end goal when he was making his solo debut. That was it. He wanted to make a song for army before he goes to the military. Each member's incentive was different.
He talked to Chris Martin from Coldplay about the kind of message he wanted to transmit, and Chris Martin produced the song specifically for Jin. This was not meant to be an official debut with a non-army audience in mind. This doesn't mean that it was an abandoned project. The Astronaut is Jin's official debut single and had 2 physical album versions, a music video, a lyric video, a live stadium performance, official merchandise, and even a show of 4 episodes with a vlog style. He also had 5 interviews, one by himself, one with Suga, and 3 in relaxed, non-serious settings, 2 for YouTube channels and 1 for TV. All of these interviews and shows helped him relax and comfortably talk in his native language about his life and future. So once again, this BTS solo
I would love
project
to watch
was
it,
successfully
since there was, Running Man
recognized
members
by
there
its
too.
desired audience. In this case, ARMY. We would have to wait for Jin's solo debut album after his military service to know what kind of music style and new audience he wants to pursue.
Album will be different.
The next BTS member to officially debut
excited for
was
this.
RM with his album Indigo. What I've seen people saying is that ARMYs did not support RM's debut like we supported the other solo debuts. But once again, pay attention to the type of audience who is actually listening and RM is promoting to. As part of Indigo's promotions, RM accepted only 4 interviews, all of them in the format of a long conversation. These were for the Sex Sense show, hosted by an American interviewer he trusts, the P6 show, hosted by comedians who interview mostly hip-hop artists and who Namjoon is a fan of.
Also, RM's style of music really fits the long conversation category because he wanted to explain why he created a certain type of music in a long-form content, because you cannot explain it the way you want to in a short form, like reality shows or talk show hosts. It's fun to promote. It's going to reach a lot of people's eyes, but it's not going to be like a long conversation.
Suchwita, hosted by his BTS bandmate Suga, and KBS News, a pretty serious South Korean news show. Namjoon chose these 4 shows wisely, and he made sure ARMYs knew why he really wanted to do these interviews only.
This is the only YouTube promotion for my whole album. Why? I've watched every show. When it comes to interview, what
It was
popped into my
really
mind
intentional.
first was you. I told the label that if I have to interview with somebody, it's gotta be Zach #1.
Brother, thank you. Your kindness and your trust means the world to me.
So why these shows? If you watch these interviews, you can quickly...
If RM trusts this interviewer, Zach, I've seen him quite a few times, but I haven't heard his long conversations, not with anyone. So it would be interesting for me to watch. I love hearing RM talk about his life philosophy in general, and his music, the thought process he was going through when he was writing the album. It's quite interesting for me to hear.
Realized he had his album and the album's production process as the main topics of conversation. Most interviewers don't ask RM meaningful questions, and if they do ask important questions about the music, they don't care or they don't understand the answer.
Yeah, most times superficial conversation in this short term, trying to get views, interviews. Again, their end goal is trying to get views, so they're going to ask you questions that can create a good headline on YouTube video or on an article.
Most interviews have superficial conversations.
Do you guys like to dance at your shows? Do you do a lot of dancing?
춤 추는 거 좋아하시죠?
Yeah, of course.
You guys are all together, but you didn't
What type of question is that? So you guys like to dance? Really?
bring your girlfriends.
When someone knows and recognizes you, do you have to run away?
Do you ever get tired of each other? Do you guys ever just...
So Namjoon chose people he knew
Yeah, RM's face, really, literally superficial questions.
would understand and care about his process of creating music. That was his priority. Indigo is not the general public's favorite type of album, and Namjoon knew that. So if there's a new type of audience he would attract after his official solo debut, it's the type of audience who likes indie, underground music. The type of audience who enjoys discovering unknown artists and who appreciates less mainstream genres like neo-soul, boom bap, urban, city pop, and folk. This is why the only performance he did for American media was for NPR's Tiny Desk concert series. The setting is more personal than most mainstream shows, and a lot of enthusiastic
A lot of artists have been found just because of this NPR session too. Underground artists, they go in there.
music fans want to discover non-mainstream artists as well as watch popular artists relax in this type of unplugged acoustic setting. So a confident yet vulnerable performer and great lyricist like RM shines the most in this type of settings. This is why instead of having a worldwide tour, he chose to give one concert to an audience of only 200 people. This concert has some of the artists who featured in his album. The list of featured artists is also something not everyone can fully appreciate.
So it was only
Most
like
of the songs
artists
part of
in that
Indigo
concert.
have featured artists RM deeply admires. For his neo-soul song, the featured artist is the queen of neo-soul, Erykah Badu. For his funk song, the featured artist
Anderson
is
.Paak.
Anderson .Paak, known for his funky style.
With Bruno
RM
Mars.
also included artists he admires but aren't as worldwide famous, such as Kim Sa-wol and Cold. This album also has a lot of references to painters and their art pieces such as Jung and Still Life. RM's debut album Indigo is for the music fans who care about meaning and art. This is why he chose to have only one physical version of his album instead of the normal two. This, alongside the fact that the physical versions took weeks to be delivered, affected his album sales numbers. But caring too much about that is crazy and shows that you're not paying attention to all the meaning of this project. RM purposefully left all the flashy photo cards, stickers, and photo shoots aside. Instead, he made his physical album some type of art piece. The pages are full of poems, graphic artwork, and photographs taken by RM.
Remember in a vlog when we visited RM's apartment, we saw a lot of the arts, the books, and the paintings that is similar to include in this album, and we can see what RM consumes on day-to-day basis in this season of his life while he was making this album. And his end goal for the album, his incentive was it was a purely passion art album project for him. That was his
He
incentive.
released a vinyl record months after the album debut, which, just like the physical album, includes RM's artwork pieces. His third and last performance was at Dia Beacon, a museum in New York with no audience. So of course most people won't get it, but the ones who can perceive and appreciate RM's passion in this album are the correct people listening and becoming fans. And by all the records RM was able to achieve with such an experimental album, I can say that his minimalistic yet meaningful promotions have been detected by the right people. Armies and music fans who care about stuff like this. Once again, this BTS solo project was successfully recognized by its desired audience. The next BTS member to officially debut was Jimin with his album Face. Face is a pop album, and its promotions were a little closer to a regular BTS promotion schedule. Jimin released teasers for the pre-release single Set Me Free Part 2 and the main single Like Crazy, which he released alongside the full album. This schedule is similar to J-Hope's schedule, which also included teasers and a pre-release single before the main single. On the other hand, RM released teasers and music videos for a main single and a follow-up single, as well as a surprise music video for a B-side which became an OST. It's important to note these differences, because although some promotions like Jimin and J-Hope's are similar in some aspects, that doesn't mean that they are targeting the same audiences. Like I said, J-Hope's album was targeted at a global hip-hop audience, but Jimin's album was targeted at a global pop audience. And for that, promotions in a show like Jimmy Fallon work better. So Jimin was a main guest at the Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, where he had an interview and performed his main single. We also need to highlight that Jimin's interview was mostly in English, so he had to practice most of his answers since he doesn't dominate the language. But this decision of taking the challenge of speaking English made sense since Jimin's main single being promoted in America was the English version of Like Crazy, not the original Korean version. This is also why he performed the English version at the Jimmy Fallon show. Other BTS member will later also attend the Jimmy Fallon show, but his choices will be the complete opposite of Jimin's because his target audience is different. The only other promotion Jimin did for America was a day in the life style of interview for Vogue. Then he started the Korean TV promotions. Like I mentioned, K-pop shows have more superficial interviews and flashy performances, but Jimin's pop songs and difficult choreographies shine the most in this type of setting.
This is what I wanted to mention too. Jimin's style of dancing and the flashy promotions, it suits really well with this Korean type of reality shows. And for Jimin's end goal and this incentive was probably similar to like BTS and K-pop in general, fitting that audience, but more broadened in terms of because he's making English music. It's not just ARMYs, but also including new worldwide K-pop enthusiasts around the world. I think that was his end goal. That was his audience that he wanted to reach.
J-Hope's Jack in the Box performances don't have choreographies, so they work best in a hip-hop show than in a K-pop show. To still demonstrate a more vulnerable and casual side, Jimin had a lengthy interview at SBS Radio as well as an interview and performance of a jazz version of Like Crazy in the show Limousine Service. These interviews were not as complicated as RM's interviews, but they were still introspective and personal enough to explain the meaning of his pop album Face in an accessible way to global audiences. As
A global audience.
Jimin also went to Suga's show Sutrita. Like Jin and RM, Jimin made a video for a popular YouTube channel. And like Jin, Jimin released 2 physical versions of his album. Finally, Jimin was the first member to release remixes of his main single and to have video calls with fans. However, many complained that all of these promotions ended too fast because only 2 weeks after, Suga started promoting his debut album. While I do agree that Face felt like a very short era, I don't really see what else he could have done. Actually, Jimin did more promotions than any other member up until this point. It just all went really fast because Suga had a tour plan, so he had no choice other than releasing his album then. Suga also couldn't have his tour later because his military enlistment date was approaching fast. So it was literally then or never. Still though, Suga's album and type of promotions are very different to Jimin's album and promotions.
And I'm sure behind the cameras, Jimin and Suga had a conversation about the situation that was at hand, where Suga felt bad for Jimin, having that close, releasing his album after 2 weeks, but I'm pretty sure Jimin understood the fact that it has to be done now because there was the military enlistment coming up and the tour was planned. Suga's tour was planned in a specific date. Hey, if you want to watch full uncut reactions, click the link in the description for Patreon. Sometimes I have to edit the video a little bit, like I'll add a black screen or I'll change the audio a little bit. So if you want to watch full uncut, unedited video, click the link in the description for Patreon. Plus, you get added benefits like exclusive song reactions. Sometimes I'll react to albums, I'll react to concerts and eliminate 1 or 2 songs, which will be exclusive on Patreon.
any new audiences listening to them for the first time, they won't be the same audiences. I also think it's even crazier to put Jimin and Suga against each other and compare their promotions when this opportunity gave us a lot of really cool promotion crossovers. I still understand, however, that the phase era was a little frustrating because since it had some promotions in America, it had success in America, and the American media did not like that. I have a whole video about this problem, but in a few words, Jimin's quote-unquote mistake was not paying for radio and playlisting in streaming platforms, which is illegal and BTS would never. So the sabotage by American media was hard. But again, this has nothing to do with ARMY's efforts, HYBE's efforts, and much less Jimin's efforts. Jimin's schedule was precise, effective, and more than enough. Other complaints appeared when Jungkook had his solo debut, because it looked like he was also promoting for a global pop audience, but he had a wider variety of global promotions. However, I actually believe Jimin and Jungkook's target pop audiences were completely different. I'll talk about Jungkook's debut later, but Jimin's pop style and his new audience that likes songs like Crazy may cross over with the audiences that like these current popular songs by Dua Lipa and Troye Sivan. I know the sound of these songs are not that similar, but I'm just trying to paint a picture. These type of pop songs have a stronger feminine and glamorous element, and they have this disco, house, synth style that it's kind of trendy these days. To put it in BTS terms, both Boy With Love featuring Halsey and Butter featuring Megan Thee Stallion are pop songs, but the general public that likes Boy With Love featuring Halsey is not always the same general public that likes Butter featuring Megan Thee Stallion. Jimin's solo debut is a little closer to Boy With Love, while Jungkook's solo debut is a little closer to Butter, so their promotions are going to be different. Because Jimin's pop style is friendlier to the general public than the other solo debuts up until this point, like Crazy, 73 Part 2, and the album Phase broke multiple records in mainstream charts and platforms like Billboard, Spotify, and Korean charts. The achievements of other members like J-Hope and RM are different because the promotions were different, because the target audiences were different. So once again, this BTS solo project was successfully recognized by its desired audience.
So in the end, Jimin's end goal was to reach a new pop art audience, but also stay within the K-pop audience. That's what I think. But just like she said, his general pop audience that Jimin wanted to reach was a little bit different from Jungkook's. People who were a little bit more friendlier and more acceptable in terms of the lyrics and the good reference points to Dua Lipa. That does make a lot of sense too. I'm really interested to hear Jungkook's
The next BTS
part.
member to officially debut was Suga under his
AKA
alternative
August D.
alias August D with his album D-Day. Suga's promotions were very unique, and it took me days to figure out the promotion strategy and if there was even one, because although D-Day is a hip-hop album, the style of promotions were closer to promotions being done by experienced South Korean artists targeting a non-K-pop Korean demographic. To start, Suga created and became the host of his own show, Suchuta, in which he interviews other South Korean artists while having some drinks. The editing style is dynamic and the conversations are very casual, so the show feels like a combination of the high production of a talk show with
I still haven't finished the Suga's part yet, but from what I hear from the beginning when she said, I don't know if Suga even had a promotion strategy. Why is it wrong to just do what you want to do in that current moment? Maybe Suga just wanted to make a music that he likes to create, a hip-hop music, and he wants to reach a hip-hop audience. Why did Suga, maybe he just wanted to start a Suchuita podcast episode. Maybe he just did things because he wanted to in that current moment. That was the work he wanted to in that current moment without a specific plan. That could be another possibility.
of a podcast. These shows where the artist is the interviewer are actually very common among South Korean artists who have been in the industry for a while. This is what I mean by the typical Korean promotion by experienced artists. This is an actual promotion strategy. Weavers magazine has an article about it. So you may think that Suga is going to adhere to this style of promotions. Well, yes, but not exactly. Suga seemed comfortable continuing this Korean style of promotions, but he's going to direct it at a global audience. So even if his promotions don't always necessarily align with a global hip-hop audience or an indie audience, it will still bring the attention from different types of global audiences while at the same time giving itself a constant cleanup. So I think Suga's promotion strategy was, if you're open-minded and you like me and my music, good for you. And if you don't, I don't care. I'm serious, you just need to look at everything he's done. First, Suga released his pre-release single, People Part 2, which is a collaboration with IU, a beloved singer in South Korea who also has her own show. As part of the People Part 2 promotions, Suga hosted his own radio show and was a guest star at IU's show a couple of days after the song release. Both the song and music video are very calm, and I can sense the Korean concept of Han, which is common in South Korean music and BTS songs like Spring Day. The music video even has an ending scene in which Suga explains the sentiment of the song. So although it's hard for this song to be globally successful with the general public because it's not flashy, it doesn't have a choreography, and the explanation scene makes the video too long for mainstream audiences, its message, style, and feature artists work with an older Korean demographic who doesn't necessarily listen to K-pop. While the promotion for People Part 2 is friendlier to this Korean audience, the main single Haegam is friendlier to a global audience. The high-budget music video with a strong storyline immediately got the attention of global hip-hop, K-pop, and even pop audiences. Haegam is a hip-hop song with aggressive and fast-paced raps, which is what most people expect from an Augustine music video. So now Suga has the attention of a South Korean audience and a global audience, but the third single, Amygdala, will focus on his biggest audience, ARMY. This song and music video are extremely personal to Suga, and they explain a traumatic event for him. The song's lyrics and theme are painful and explicit, so the music video has an age restriction. While it doesn't feel right for many ARMYs to use this single as part of a promotion schedule with a strategy and a target audience in mind, I think this trilogy of videos can once again get the attention from people who are actually interested in the story Suga is trying to tell. To truly get his music, you need to care enough to go out of your way to find his story, motives, and style of storytelling.
I actually quite like Suga's way of promotion, if you can even call it that. His way of doing it, just like how she said, it was, if you like my music or not, if you do like my music, listen to it. If not, I don't care. And there wasn't set of schedules, set of goals. I think it was a lot more free in terms of the schedules and the plannings for his promotion. He wanted to create the music that he wanted to create, put it out when he wanted to put out, create a show that he wanted to create, and put it out when he wanted to put out. Which I think for an artist's soul is a lot more freeing and less taxing and anxiety invoking. Probably make Suga happier in general.
This is why, just like J-Hope, Suga decided to also have his own documentary on Disney+. He's basically giving every audience the opportunity to understand him and his music, but if they don't, he won't go out of his way to convince anybody. Just look at his promo activities. The documentary titled Suga Road to D-Day follows Suga on a trip around the world in the search of inspiration for his debut album, and it includes exclusive performances with a live band.
This sounds so interesting.
After, Suga started his sold-out tour around the US and Asia. Like the rest of his album,
Suga's and Hobby's documentary sounds really good. I can watch Hobby's documentary right away because I already watched Lollapalooza, but Suga's documentary probably should be watched after watching the concert.
on promotions, this tour felt very raw, personal, and real. He replaced the neat choreographies with performances with a guitar and a piano. So although Suga being a guest at the Tonight Show and even playing a game with Jimmy Fallon may seem like attempts to go mainstream, Suga decided to continue his casual style of promotions and refused to speak English or dance a choreography for mainstream audiences. He still put himself out there and accepted many interviews for different radios in America. But by choosing to speak his native Korean and have a translator on his international interviews, Suga prioritized the meaning of his album and his true personality. So only the ones who are not bothered by reading subtitles will be the right new audience listening to his music. This BTS solo project was successfully recognized by its desired audience.
Monday, Tuesday, oh, it's Jungkook's part. 7 days a week.
The next BTS member to officially debut was Jungkook with his single 7. Now, up until this point, all of the sounds and styles of the solo works have been pretty predictable. J-Hope has already released hip-hop music. Jin has already released pop rock music. RM has already released these experimental styles of music. Jimin has already released pop music. And Suga's album is the third part of a project going on for years. But Jungkook's 7 came as a surprise to some ARMYs because it's not something many would expect from BTS. To start, 7 is a pop song of the UK garage genre, and it has two main versions. A clean version about wanting to spend every moment of every day with one's lover, and an explicit version which expresses a more sexual desire. Combine this with Jungkook's commercials as a new ambassador for Calvin Klein and 7's promotional campaign, and you can see a clear new image of Jungkook as
I think Jungkook's way of thinking wasn't necessarily an audience. Like how she said, clear new image of Jungkook as an artist. Jungkook's mind and his goal, his ambition is to literally become a pop star, a pop king, comparable to Michael Jackson. And Jungkook fits the image really well too.
Featured the American rapper Latto, and the music video features the South Korean actress Han Soo-hee as Jungkook's girlfriend. The promotions were focused on 3 countries: the US, the UK, and South Korea. In the US, Jungkook had an interview and performed 7 on the day of its release in New York as part of Good Morning America's summer concert series. He then had interviews with Spotify and radio shows like Odyssey Music, The Elvis Duran Show, Sirius XM, C100 New York, and iHeartRadio. In the UK, Jungkook had an interview and performed on BBC's The One Show and on BBC Radio 1's Live Lounge. In South Korea, Jungkook only performed in the K-pop music show in Kigayu, but that one performance was enough to make Jungkook the most awarded K-pop soloist this year across different K-pop shows. As well, Jungkook released 3 EPs of remixes: the weekday version, the weekend version, and the Alesso remix. The physical CDs were produced by Hype America, and they did not have the regular style of a BTS single album like Jin's The Astronaut, for example. Instead, this CD was a simple CD, more common in the US. This is nothing new. BTS has already released simple CDs, vinyls, and cassettes like this.
Jungkook's promotion and his debut was definitely the most exciting one.
For their US singles. This style of promotions in the US helped Jungkook become the second BTS member to get a #1 song on the Hot 100 as a solo artist. In a few words, Jungkook's promotion schedule included a lot of the activities artists do to make their song go mainstream. However, because the song is explicit, it caters a Western mainstream audience and it doesn't have a profound message like the other BTS solo projects. Some people think it's too westernized and that it doesn't feel like a BTS song. While I do agree that 7 is mainly targeted at Western audiences and the general public, why is this surprising or even disappointing to some fans? I think this is happening because sometimes ARMYs don't truly accept BTS as their pop culture image. They see them through their wholesome, family-friendly, philosophical image only. And this can sound very nice, but I think this is the reason why 7 can come as a shock to them. And to be honest, I'm a little tired of this because it's like some ARMYs want BTS to be the artist they want them to be, not the multidimensional artist.
BTS, all the boys, they are all humans and they're evolving throughout the years and they're becoming and improving and living the life that they want to live, the goal they see for themselves as an artist and as a music creator. And Jungkook's 7 was, for me personally, probably the most exciting debut album, and the songs are the most catchiest, and it was a mainstream song, and it helped BTS in general so much. Jungkook's recognition in the entire world with 7, it reached to so many new people that they weren't aware of BTS beforehand.
Truly are and want to be recognized as, because it's always the same story. BTS shows versatility. People say this is not what I expected from them. BTS released DNA, it sounds too Western. BTS released Boy With Love, it sounds too Western and it lacks meaning. BTS released Dynamite, it sounds too Western, it lacks meaning, and it's in English, so the K-pop fantasy is broken. BTS released Butter, it sounds too Western, it lacks meaning, it's in English, and they only care about Western success.
I didn't know these
BTS
songs
released
had this
Permission
type
to
of
Dance,
criticism.
It sounds too Western, it lacks meaning, it's in English, they only care about Western success, and it was not written by the BTS members. And now Jungkook releases 7, but it sounds too Western, it lacks meaning, it's in English, they only care about Western success, it was not written by a BTS member, and it's too explicit. But like I said a million times already, BTS makes music that attracts completely different audiences, and this is not new at all. Some people say that Jimin's song was also mainstream pop, but at least 2 BTS members were songwriters and it has meaningful lyrics. But it looks like these fans are ignoring the past years of BTS's career. Wasted on Me, Dynamite, Savage Love, Butter, Permission to Dance, and Bad Decisions were targeted at the Western general public. While still releasing the regular hip-hop, pop, and R&B songs, BTS promoted one song with the purpose of being the mainstream song that can actually get recognized in Western media like Billboard and the Grammys. Once again, they do this all the time. They're continuing their meaningful...
Why not have the 2 types of music running at the same time? Have a really meaningful Korean discography and make a Korean-based lyric songs, but at the same time create a mainstream Western song. And I probably can't see it from the point of view who's an old ARMY, who's been a fan of BTS and ARMY for years and years. I can see and understand why you would like to keep a BTS in the way that you have found at first, and listen to the Korean songs and fit that certain criteria and image that you found BTS in the beginning. But as a new ARMY, as a new fan, I appreciate the mainstream and English songs a lot more. First of all, it's more enjoyable for me to listen to, and secondly, it's easier to tell my friends and actually have them enjoy BTS music. Like Seven and Jungkook, when I tell my BTS listening or just K-pop in general listening friends who are extremely, who fits the masculine type of image, who's bodybuilders, professional bodybuilders and powerlifters, when I make them listen to Jungkook's new song, the mainstream songs, the 7, everything from the Golden album, they like it quite a lot.
In discography, BTS has released an English project for Western audiences and a Japanese project for Japanese audiences, so I don't know why this is suddenly a surprise. And Jungkook's global promotion worked. 7 has been the #1 song worldwide for weeks, and I won't be surprised if it's nominated for American award shows. And this makes a lot of sense. Think about BTS's old competition, mainstream hip-hop based duets with explicit lyrics. While it's easy to judge these songs for being too explicit or meaningless, the truth is that this is what the general public listens to, and a song doesn't have to be clean or have multiple layers of meaning to be a good song. Actually, there was one time when an interviewer had the same criticism for one of the songs competing with Dynamite back in 2020, but BTS disagreed with the interviewer and defended the song.
카디비 WAP에게
Vap.
이거 그냥 댄스 챌린지로 유명한 거지 별거 아니에요 노래는
저 얘기는 아니에요.
So just because a song is explicit doesn't mean that it's bad or dirty.
당신을 엿먹이는 것과 당신을 사랑하는 것은 같은 것이 아닙니다. 서양 아티스트로서 더티 버전을 만든 이유는 무엇입니까? 그게 왜 더티 버전이야? 그게 왜 더티 버전인데? 이유를 설명을 해봐.
I love the way Jungkook came back at that. Yeah, I love that comeback. He said it with expression of I don't give a BS. I don't give a fuck.
어쩔 수 없지만 어떻게 보면 나이가 몇이냐 내가.
Yeah, I love that answer. Jungkook's answer was awesome. You really said I don't give a fuck.
27인데
27.
이렇게 노출이 있는 촬영을 또 하게 되네요. 그런 걸 싫어하는 분들도 계시겠지만
7 is actually
I can also see why the fans would want to keep the image of Jungkook in a way that they have found it, because when the older armies, they started listening to BTS when they were young kids, 18, 19, 20, and still within their brain, Jungkook and all the members are those young boys. And when it breaks out of that image that they have in their head, it feels weird because it's different.
song for today's pop. It has a female rapper as a featured artist, and Jungkook's pop voice makes the song fresh, modern, and the perfect adaptation of the typical modern mainstream song. Despite some people's beliefs, I see the care of a regular BTS project in this song too. It's well produced, polished, and not the typical lazy song done exclusively to fool people into streaming it. Whether Jungkook decides to make a full album in English targeted at a Western audience like Butter, a self-produced Korean album like Map of the Soul 7, or a mix of both like Jimin's Face, I'll support because they are experimenting with their solo careers and finding their personal sound and target audience. So once again, this solo project was successfully recognized by its desired audience. The last BTS member to debut as a solo artist is V with his album Layover. These promotions have started not long ago, but we can already see what kind of audience Taeyong is promoting to. However, complaints by solo stans were out before the album was out. They claim that the label is purposefully not doing any promotions and that Taeyong is doing everything himself by sharing his projects on social media. This idea that HYBE is constantly trying to sabotage the artist that brings them the most money is pretty silly, but it's funny how it's always the solo fans who complain about favoritism. Just like every BTS solo project, we need to understand and accept that their music is different. Layover is very different to all of the BTS solo projects, so the promotions are going to be very different as well.
Well, this is gonna make some people angry, but I'm just gonna tell the truth. I don't sometimes understand only the solo stans and solo fans of BTS. It's quite common, I see it in the comments, to only be a solo stan of Jungkook or V. And then, well, you can have your favorites. It's okay, we all have our favorites. My favorite, my bias from the beginning has been RM. Why would you hate on the other members? It's meaningless to hate on the other members. They're all groups, they're all family together, and they're all making music that they want to make, and they're living their best life with their own incentive, their own goals. And just because you have your favorites and you might like Jungkook and V a lot more than the other members, they might be your bias, but I don't see any good reason, a logical reason to hate on the other members just because you like one member a lot more than the others.
Just like most of V's music as part of BTS, Layover is R&B with elements of soul and pop. Therefore, the performances and interviews will fit the promotions for an R&B project. So don't focus on every mainstream promotion Taeyong didn't do. Focus on how he is choosing alternative mediums for promotions. To start, Taeyong released 5 different music videos, one for each song of the album. This is already huge. The maximum number of music videos a BTS member has released for one album is 3, a pre-release, a main release, and a follow-up. But Taeyong has 2 pre-releases, a main release, and 2 follow-ups. This is a new strategy that I wanted BTS to try for a while. Think about these popular albums. Their promotions included music videos for multiple of the album's songs. This prolongs the artist's promotion schedule and it helps each song of the album become popular, not just one song or 2. So
Yeah,
if we
videos, songs with music video definitely become a lot more popular
concentrate on
compared to
this
the songs
R&B
without
project's
music
promotion strategy, let's think about every door Taeyong opened for himself by releasing these many music videos. His debut performance was not at a Western show or a K-pop show or a festival. It was on a new Korean music show that slows down chart competition by announcing an artist of the month, not a song of the week, which usually exhausts the artist and the fandoms. This show is also more personal than a festival or a Western TV show. So for this kind of calm album, this debut stage feels right. On K-pop shows, artists normally perform 1 or 2 songs, 3 being the maximum number of performances. But this specific K-pop show let Taeyong perform 4 of his songs at once. Why am I mentioning this? Because the only reason Taeyong was able to perform his entire album on K-pop TV shows was because he released music videos for the entire album. For Inkigayo, he performed the main single Slow Dancing and Rainy Days. For Mnet, he performed Slow Dancing and Love Me Again. For Music Band, he performed Slow Dancing and For Us. And for N-Pop, he performed Slow Dancing, Love Me Again, Rainy Days, and Blue. It's genius. Taeyeon was able to promote his entire R&B album on K-pop TV shows. This is the first time an artist has done this successfully. But it doesn't end here. Taeyeon did not only choose this new K-pop TV show with less than 60,000 subscribers as an alternative medium. He also was one of the first artists to perform on the new series Tiny Desk Korea. This is a new show part of NPR's Tiny Desk concert series, which features only South Korean artists. But Taeyeon's performance was released on both Tiny Desk Korea and NPR's Tiny Desk concert. So he is, in a way, promoting his Korean R&B album to a global audience. Finally, Taeyeon became the first member to promote in Japan. This is also very smart because if there's any country with a big market who would listen to an R&B Korean album, is Japan, the second biggest music market in the world. These interviews and
Wow, I didn't know
performances
Japan
helped
was the
Taeyeon
second biggest
show
music
his
market.
warm and soulful personality to an audience that is more likely to consume this kind of project. His personality is also reflected on the style of photo shoots and the three
These are
physical
really cool
albums
photo
he wanted
shoots.
to release.
Wow, as if V's fan, this would be a probably really cool thing to have. And also V's image in terms of becoming a pop star, because V is so handsome, it fits Japanese audience really well too.
These music videos, teasers, interviews, and media
V's music, the music that he wants to create, is R&B genre. It's clean, and V's face with the face card like that, being really handsome. It fits almost the beauty standards of the world, but specifically Japan.
articles are planned, organized, and shared not only by V, but also by HYBE and BTS on all of their social media platforms. If you expect Taeyeon to have the numbers of pop releases or
This
the
is
type
fun
of
to watch.
promotions of the hip-hop releases, you are crazy because he never intended to promote to those audiences. For an R&B album, Layover is huge, and this BTS solo project is successfully being recognized by its desired audience. Let's not forget that although BTS are on their era of solo music, they are still releasing music as a group. After the solo promotions started with J-Hope, BTS promoted their song Run BTS. They released The Planet, an OST song for an animated film, and they released Take 2 as part of their 10th anniversary celebration. Just like every other solo project and group project, these songs have different sounds, so they have different audiences, so they have different promotions. Run BTS is a song that is friendly to K-pop audiences. It's fast-paced, it has a choreography, and it shows a ton of energy. So they released a dance practice, performed it at their Busan concert, and released a lot of TikTok videos with K-pop artists. The Planet is a song for an animated series about a young idol group with superpowers. So the genre is pop and the style is simple but energetic. The music video and promotions are all related to the show, and they have a younger audience in mind. Take 2 is the classical letter song for armies. It was written and produced by BTS members, and it has the classical BTS sound when it comes to slow pop.
There's so many
R&B
cool
ballad
songs and performances
like
I haven't
mentioned
watched
before
yet.
about V's project, this style of songs actually work pretty well on Japanese audiences. So it debuted at number 6 on the Billboard Japan Hot 100 with no music videos, remixes, or anything. But it's pretty clear that the main audience for this song is ARMY. So it charted well on pretty much every global chart. Basically, every one of these songs had the right
This
promotions
looks so
for
fun
each
to
of
watch,
their
the dance
audiences.
practice.
We need to see the solo projects and their promotions like this too. Maybe for some, this analysis of each solo promotion was unnecessary and obvious, but I had to do it because I received so many messages by armies who don't consider themselves solo stans being confused about why some members had quote-unquote more opportunities than others. Some were genuinely confused by Jungkook's explicit lyrics, RM's minimalistic promotions, and J-Hope's lack of physical albums. So I hope I helped calm the confusion at least least a little. ARMYs need to accept that BTS are real multidimensional artists. They are 7 artists with different visions, styles, and journeys in their music. Of course, their promotion schedules are going to be different. Sure, ARMYs are the main audience listening to their solo projects, but the BTS members are going to perform and accept interviews on the shows that they feel the most comfortable showcasing their music. Don't expect the global BTS style of promotions for every solo project and cry when that doesn't happen. Think about the sound and their personalities individually. Their solo projects align with the solo songs they had on BTS albums, so accept the BTS members as the multidimensional artists they are. Trust them and their decisions, especially in this solo era.
잘 이겨나가고 여러분과 또 행복하게 공연하고 음악 만들고 할 거니까 호석이가 얘기했던 것처럼 부디 믿음을 가져주시길 바라겠습니다.
Sure. I really like Veracity magazine, this channel. One of my favorite informational YouTube channels ever right now, as of now. She keeps it honest, no bullshit. Her videos are super informational, logical, and it makes so much sense too when she explains things. And at the end of the day, looking at all the members here, we have to respect every member's decision and their desire to create the music that they want to create. And everybody has different ambitions and different tastes. I mean, they have different roles in the BTS group, and we all know that each one of them has different individual personalities, and that's what makes them BTS, and that's why we love them. Why would you expect the exact same type of music from them and exact same type of promotions from them? It doesn't make any sense. We like them because they all have different personalities, and what makes V, that's what makes V, and he's gonna create a music, an album, and promotion style with his personality. And each one of them had different incentive, different audiences in mind. V's was to create an R&B style and soulful, more artistic. Hobbies was to reach a certain kind of a hip-hop audience worldwide, globally, especially Western. RM's was specifically like extremely artistic and passionate, express the way he wanted to create, make the music with the audience and the artists that he wanted to collaborate with. For Jin, it was his debut wasn't necessarily to reach as many as people as possible. It was specifically for the army because he didn't want to go quietly to the military. It was his last song before he went to the military. Suga, I think he was a lot more free, wanted to create the music that he wanted to create without any specific schedules in mind. And if you like his music, listen to my music. If you don't, I don't care. With tight type of attitude and continue on with his album journey, try to reach the hip hop audience. And for Jimin, it was become a pop artist, suited a lot more towards the more positive Dua Lipa type of style audience, and also still reach the K-pop audience worldwide and in Korea. For Jungkook, his goal was to go mainstream, and his goal, more adult explicit videos, because that's what he wanted to create. And like he said, he's 27 years old. One of my favorite parts in this video was when Jungkook was asked, why do you have such an explicit lyrics in 7? Let's watch this again, because I loved the way he answered that. I loved the way Jungkook answered that, like with the absolutely don't give a fuck attitude. This is
So
it.
just because a song is explicit doesn't mean that it's bad or dirty.
One of my favorite parts.
당신을 사랑하는 것은 같은 것이 아닙니다. 서양 아티스트로서 더티 버전을 만든 이유는 무엇입니까? 그게 왜 더티 버전이야? 그게 왜 더티 버전인데? 이유를 설명을 해봐. 익스플리시트 버전인데. 솔직한 거잖아. 그렇게 느껴졌다면은 어쩔 수 없지만. 나이가 몇이냐 내가.
그래도 이제 나이가 27인데 나이 먹으니까 이렇게 노출이 있는 촬영을 또 하게 되네요. 그런 걸 싫어하는 분들도 계시겠지만.
Yeah, and I think Jungkook's end goal is to become like a pop star, a worldwide pop star, a pop king, and that's the image he has for his career. And I respect every single artist, every single one of our boys' ambitions and goals. This was a really good video to watch. Every Veracity magazine video has been super informational and fun for me to watch. Hey, if you want to watch full uncut reactions, click the link in the description for Patreon. Sometimes I have to edit the video a little bit, like I'll add a black screen or I'll change the audio a little bit. So if you want to watch full uncut, unedited video, click the link in the description for Patreon. Plus, you get added benefits like exclusive song reactions. Sometimes I'll react to albums, I'll react to concerts and eliminate 1 or 2 songs, which will be exclusive on Patreon.